Welcome back, everybody. You know, there's a lot of history in our capital city, and sure, you could drive around and take a look through your window at all the important landmarks.
But there's actually another way to see Hartford that will get you an even closer look at the rich history we have. Melissa Cole takes us on a unique walking tour.
If you want to find out some really interesting things about Hartford that you might not read about in history books, then meet Stephen Thornton, a Hartford resident for over 40 years.
Hartford is really a fantastic city. It goes periodically through economic slumps and problems, but it's got such an enormous history, and I believe that ordinary people are the real makers of history, and there's been a lot of wonderful organizing and celebration here in this city.
Steve's tours, known as shoe leather walking tours, mostly showcase ordinary people that made a big difference in Hartford's history.
First of all, these are buttons that we give out at the first, at the very beginning. Okay. And you can take any one that you want. Here, take this one. Okay. This is Frederick Douglass, who spent a good deal of time in Hartford and was very influential. But on his very first trip to Hartford, he couldn't find one public hall or church to speak in because he was speaking about abolition, and that was too radical a subject.
So Frederick Douglass is my spirit guide for the tour, which starts in front of the Charter Oak Cultural Center. Though many years ago, this building had another purpose. It was actually a synagogue.
Temple Bethel was the very first synagogue in Connecticut. This is a traditional piece of history, but my part of it is to talk and introduce people to Rabbi Abraham Feldman, who during the 1930s was a very well-known figure around the country, and he spoke out for world peace. This is after World War I, for disarmament and against fascism. This was back in the late 20s, early 30s, where people in America were saying, oh, fascism sounds efficient, you know, but he warned people about it. So he's certainly worth remembering and celebrating.
Next stop, the Charter Oak Tree Memorial.
Where the tree actually was and where it fell is right there.
So there was a giant charter oak right here.
It was a white oak that was over 700 years old.
Wow! First used by Native Americans as a seasonal calendar to know when to plant and harvest.
Its main importance to the city is the charter that was given to the colony here by the English King Charles. And it gave the colony a certain level of independence.
But the next king, James, wanted the charter back, so he sent someone to get it. An argument ensued at a local tavern lit by candlelight.
All of a sudden, all the candles went out. The room was completely dark, and when they set the candles up amid the chaos, the charter, which had been sitting on the table, was gone.
The story goes that colonist Joe Wadsworth stole the charter and hid it in this giant white oak, and that's how it got its name, the Charter Oak.
So it fell August 21st, 1856, for any particular reason?
Storm, and it was old.
Up the hill a bit and around the corner, we arrive at a large, beautiful home.
This house was owned by Dr. Richard Gatling. He was a physician. Dr. Richard Gatling was the inventor of the Gatling gun. And I call that the first weapon of mass destruction because it could shoot 500 bullets in 60 seconds. Wow. That's the first time there was any weapon like that that could theoretically kill so many people in such a short time.
The Gatling gun was produced just a few miles away at the Colt factory. You could actually see the Onion Dome from this house. We walked through the neighborhood a little more to get to our last stop, the former Capewell Horse Nail Company factory, now a building of apartments. But the historic initials still adorn the building today.
This was the largest maker of horseshoe nails in the world.
Horses were the main mode of transportation in the late 19th century, so this was a very popular spot to work. The men made the nails, and the ladies and girls sorted and packed them. And then in 1902, this building burned down.
And in the rubble Capewell said to the girls, I want you to find all the nails that are lost here in the rubble.
Oh my gosh.
Which of course is dirty, hazardous work. And he said, but I'm not going to pay you the same rate because you're not really sorting and packing, you're just doing cleanup.
Oh my God.
They said no way, and they went on strike, and they were on strike for several months until Sam Gompers, who was the big labor leader in the nation at the time, came and helped settle the strike.
I don't blame them.
Yeah.
And that was the first women's strike in Connecticut. If you take Steve's tour, you'll end it like this.
I call this low-tech storytelling in the digital age. And Viewmaster, there's nothing more low-tech than that.
Oh yeah, look, the Charter Oak tree, yep. Dr. Richard Gatling. Now, after people are done, do they say, boy, I really had no idea all that happened here in Hartford?
Inevitably. They always do. And that has less to do with me than the fact that there's history everywhere you stand. And that's exactly what you find on a tour like this.
You can contact Stephen for more information on his tours. Fascinating. He offers them to groups, and there are 2 different tours that you can choose from.
Absolutely. The website where you can sign up is shoeleatherhistoryproject.com. There's a